Welcome to The World Awaits.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust.
I'm Kirstie Bedford, journalist, editor and travel writer.
And I'm Belinda Jackson, author, travel journalist and columnist, and we're your weekly co-hosts. Welcome back to The World Awaits. How are you all?
Hi everyone, and hello to you, Belle, all the way from Greece.
There we go. Yes, hello everybody. I'm sitting on my little pool deck here in the Mandarin Oriental, down in Costa Navarino, which is in the Peloponnese, in the south of Greece on the mainland. And I'm looking out at beautiful little historic towns. I'm looking at the bay where history hit. The last great naval battle fought on sailing ships occurred in the Greek War of Independence. I love it. I love it. There's olive groves. Yes, there's olive groves. There's also a golf course, and there's my pool. So it's not too shabby, I'm going to say, friends.
So nice. How was the flight?
Oh my goodness, it was so long. I'd forgotten. 13 hours up to Doha, a few hours in between of what's been voted the world's best airport. I actually did drop into that massive tropical garden, the orchard, and took a look around. So just kind of think of it as like, I think Kuala Lumpur has an orchard there, which is, but this is like absolutely on steroids with rain showers and things like that. So it was quite a nice place to take that breather and be amongst nature before you get on your next flight, which was 4.5 hours from Doha to Athens. So I was on Qatar's flight, obviously, packed for the school holidays. And now I'm here on the Peloponnese Peninsula, which, if this triggered a memory from high school, Kirstie, this is where the Peloponnesian Wars were fought between Athens and Sparta. And it's also the site of the first Olympics. And from here, I'm going to be heading back to Athens tomorrow and up to northern Greece and across the border into Bulgaria. So I'm going to rein it in, because we're going to talk about it next week when we speak about all things Greek and Bulgarian.
Amazing.
And it's so good. I've eaten all the yogurt. Can I just say all the yogurt, all the honey, all of the olive oil. It's such a rich and beautiful land. We also have some very exciting news for you, because we have finally got a new website. Yay! Yay! Hopefully you'll find the episode pages, and that's an easy way to go back to the last few episodes. And the entire website is also really easy to navigate. So let us know what you think.
Yes, we love it. It's so pretty. And so we'd love it if you can take a look at theworldawaits.au. So the web address hasn't changed. And you can actually sign up now via a little pop-up box. So you can get any interesting updates and episode info straight to your inbox. And those who sign up will also be given the first chance to go on to win our giveaways before they go on air.
Yeah, and speaking of which, we have a great giveaway on offer at the moment. If you want to grab a copy of Lonely Planet's Guide to Vietnam, just drop us a note at hello@theworldawaits, or come and say hi on our Instagram at The World Awaits Podcast to be in the draw. So while I've been flouncing around in Greece, what have you been up to, Kirstie, beside managing website changes?
Yes, well, I have.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know that's been interesting. Anyone who has worked on a website knows that there's a bit of back and forth. But no, look, it's been good, and we are so thrilled with the results. I've actually spent the week planning a little trip back to New Zealand outside of website changes and discussions, and I'm going back to see my mum. My mum actually lives in Auckland, and then we're heading up north to a very special little spot that's known as the birthplace of New Zealand, which is the far north, because it's actually where the Maori elders say that the first Polynesians who became Maori landed when they arrived in New Zealand. So it's a really beautiful part of the country, and also home to one of the country's most exclusive and remote lodges, which is called Rosewood Kauri Cliffs. So I'm going to be staying there. If I can tell you all about that when I get back.
Oh, I can't wait for that, because Kauri Cliffs is a place of legend in the luxury scene. So didn't they add some new villas last year?
Yeah, they did. So they added these new 4-bedroom villas, which are just shy of 20,000 New Zealand dollars per night in the high season. And so I'll be staying in a slightly smaller villa, but it'll still have all the lux that you'd expect. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to. I've been wanting to experience it for a really long time, so I'm really looking forward to going up and being able to write about it, and I'll be able to tell everyone about it.
Oh, I never have. I mean, New Zealand's got this reputation around the world as having some of the best luxury lodges in the whole world. And, there's plenty that are in areas off the beaten track. That's what I love about it, that they're not, you're not setting something up in the middle of a city. You're in a fly fishing place. That was always my dream, to go to New Zealand, stay in a lodge and learn how to fly fish. One day it's going to happen. But this idea of being off the beaten track brings us to our chat this week, which is about Intrepid Travel's 2025 Not Hot list, which gets people into lesser known places. So it's such a great idea. The report is a collaboration by Intrepid's global team and local operators that are experts in 27 cities or locations worldwide. So they've also teamed up with travel trend agency Globe Trender. And there's 10 destinations where it'll offer new initiatives and building more infrastructure to help support and promote tourism.
So topping the list is Gilgit-Baltistan in Pakistan, which is home to 3 of the world's great mountain ranges, including the Himalayas, and 5 of the 14 peaks are over 8,000 metres. But even so, it still has less than 20,000 adventure tourists annually. Gosh, you'd think adventure tourists would be flocking to that. The area is a really remote region. It's in Pakistan's Karakoram mountain range, which is nicknamed the Third Pole because of its amazing peaks and glaciers and valleys. And that's followed by Qaqortoq Disco Island in Greenland, which is a volcanic region with more dramatic fjords and valleys and mountains. And there's also loads of wildlife like whales, seals, and lots of bird species. So great for twitchers out there.
Oh, I love a good twitch. Australia made the list. Australia made the list with Cape York third on the list, home to more national parks than anywhere else in Queensland. The peninsula has rainforests, tropical savannas, and vibrant coral reefs. And you can expect to see 3,000 plant species, as well as 321 bird species and rock art galleries rated amongst the world's top 10 most significant art sites, which is phenomenal for Australia. Next on the list is the Adirondack Mountain Range, which is just 4 hours from Manhattan, but miles away from the bustling city life, larger than Yellowstone, Yosemite, Glacier, Grand Canyon, and the Great Smoky Mountain National Parks combined. It's interestingly not a national park, but a patchwork of public and private land with no entrance fees or closing times.
Geez, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Next up is Saint-Chand in Mongolia. Its centrepiece is a monastery, and you can go there and explore the grounds and wander through nearby meditation caves. That'd be cool. There are also authentic interactions with local camel herders. Wow. And you can stay in and you can stay in locally owned accommodation. I do love all this. I do love going places where, as you know, I just adore going to places where you can meet locals and actually stay with them and have a genuinely authentic experience. And you can sample regional specialties like steamed dumplings and try traditional Mongolian vodka or camel milk curd. I'll go the vodka, but I'm not so sure about the camel milk curd. So next on the list is Guyana, which has long remained one of South America's least visited countries, and it also makes the list because of its wildlife safaris, where you can find jaguars and anteaters and spot eagles, and join Indigenous communities whose work here has preserved the ecosystem. And then there's the Anti-Atlas Mountains in Morocco, which I think you've been to, haven't you, Belle?
Yeah, and look, this is magnificent. I hiked through there years ago, sleeping in rock overhangs that were used to pen goats, which the herders take up into these mountains every year. So this is the home to the Amazigh people or the Berber people. It's of that part of North Africa. It's away from the busy Mount Toubkal region, but hiking here, you come across little kasbahs, which are castles or fortresses, and also these ancient stone granaries. So they're essentially banks for grains, which were rock built, and people would store their grain there, but then they'd also store their oil and other. It was kind of like a bank, really. And these are being restored to lure visitors into this area and away from that Mount Toubkal. So also on this not hot list is Accra in Ghana, which is rising from its former reputation as a stopover for tourists, heading to the country's beaches and national parks. It's getting a new waterfront area. It's got an arts and cultural centre, green spaces, and a beachfront promenade. And once overshadowed by South America's wine giants, Argentina and Chile, the Maldonado coastal area is said to have put Uruguay on the global wine region. The region is now often compared to Tuscany with its olive groves and rows of vines, and little Uruguay is just absolutely gorgeous in its own right. And I agree, it's been overlooked for way too long.
Yeah, sounds amazing. And last on the list is Oslo in Norway, which is surprising given it's actually introducing a tourist tax to combat over-tourism in hotspots. But compared to other Scandinavian cities, it actually has much fewer visitors. So a visit here, for those who haven't been yet, gives you a city experience with wilderness on the doorstep. And we will put a link in the show notes. And if you want to tell us some places you think should be on the list, or those that shouldn't have been on the list, go ahead and drop us a note at hello@theworldawaits.au, because we love hearing from our listeners.
You're listening to The World Awaits. Subscribe through our website at theworldawaits.au.
This week, I chat to Sharyn Nilsen, who, along with her husband Tim, decided that when they hit retirement age, instead of downsizing or checking into an aged care facility, as some people do, they'd hit the road. They've now been to more than 140 countries and territories and are continuing to explore the world. Sharyn gives invaluable insights into how you can do it too. Welcome to the show, Sharyn.
Hi, how are you?
Great to have you on The World Awaits. Let's start by tell us a bit about how you, your background, what your career, and how you grew to have a love of travel.
Okay, well, my husband Tim and I, we met back when I was 17 in Broken Hill, which is a mining town in New South Wales in Australia, and we have always wanted to explore. So I went to uni in Adelaide, then we went up to Brisbane to live, and we went to a travel show one day and we got a big mound of brochures. It was back in the days of brochures, and we went through them all and we said, well, we've just got to go and do all of this. So we sat down and we planned out 12 months as, the usual Aussie gap year, and that didn't appear to be enough. So we planned out another year, and that still wasn't enough. So we planned out 3 years and said, look, because this was in the 90s, it was pre-internet and all the rest of it. And we thought, well, we better stop at 3 and see how we go. So we saved for 5 years. I worked for, I'm a scientist by background, and I worked for private industry, and then I worked for the government laboratories up in Queensland. And Tim originally worked on the mines, and then he started his own business in graphic design. So we put our heads down for 5 years, and we spent 3.5 years backpacking around the world from 96 to 99. Managed to get to 66 countries that time and just absolutely loved it. So we said, well, we've got to keep doing this, but how are we going to do it? So we said, well, let's go back to Australia and put our heads down again and have a 10-year plan. So we arrived back just before the 2000 New Year because, everybody was freaking out about Y2K. We thought, well, if the world's going to go to pack, then we better be back somewhere where we've, got friends and family around us. Nothing happened, obviously. So we spent 10 years planning to do this permanently. So I was quality manager for the government laboratories in Queensland. Tim went back to uni, got his graphic design degree and had his own business. So almost to the day, we implemented the plan to go travelling permanently.
Gosh, so you've spent your entire lives together planning.
Yeah.
And now then what age did you decide just to retire and do it permanently?
Oh gosh, it was 20. Oh, well, we decided back in 2000, but we had to work out how to do it. So obviously in 2000, what was I, 34, and Tim was, he was 40. So we wanted to get away before he turned 50, which we did. His birthday's in December, so that kind of gives you an extra year to play with. So we just implemented a plan. So we worked hard, we invested well, and we planned, what do we need to do it consistently, and it was teaching English overseas seemed like a good idea. We both had degrees, so we could get work permits and things. So the original plan was to teach English for 12 months, save our money, like so that we weren't spending our savings and investments, and then work for a year, travel for a year, work for a year, travel for a year, which we kind of did, except when opportunities rose to travel longer, where we kind of skipped out on the teaching bit. But during COVID, we were actually in Vietnam during COVID. That was a choice, kind of, because we do have an investment property back in Australia, but we didn't feel that we could keep the tenants out. Obviously, we didn't know what was going on. We were safe. We knew the country in Vietnam. They were doing pretty well. And so we decided to stay there because we could teach while we were there, so we still had jobs. So we spent COVID in Vietnam, and after that we decided, well, this is all crazy. The opportunity to travel could end at any time. So as soon as we came after COVID, we came back to Australia to see our families, which we hadn't seen for 2 years, and then we're travelling. So we're not teaching anymore. We have online kind of passive income, not so passive income, and the investments from where we kind of put our head down for 10 years. So, we don't have an extravagant travel life. We know how to save money, and it's really not that. It's probably cheaper the way we travel than living in Australia in many ways.
So how long have you been from when you were, say, 35 and Tim was 40 and you left? How long have you been travelling now?
We left in 2010. So
okay.
What's that? 14 years. Yeah.
Wow. And so just getting back to the income thing, because I'm sure a lot of people who are listening would absolutely love to be in a position where you are one day. So how do you actually financially support the travel? So like you said, you've obviously both worked very hard, and you were a scientist, and Tim had his own business. So was he able to continue doing that remotely? I mean, it was harder for you, or?
Yeah, well, remote work had really just come in. It was kind of a thing. I guess the internet had improved a lot in 2010. So when we first left in 2010, Tim was still servicing clients. But when you go to places like West Africa and the internet was still very spotty, then obviously couldn't meet deadlines and things like that. So he had to give a lot of those clients up. By then, we'd already tried teaching English, and that was great. I mean, we got teaching jobs at one of the best schools in Vietnam, private language schools. We're not teachers by trade, so we can't be international teachers, but we do have our teaching English qualifications, and Vietnam's one of the places where what you get paid and the cost of living, there's actually room there if you work hard to save money. And obviously you're not spending your capital or savings back home. So it kind of goes in waves. You have a more expensive year and then you buckle down and save. But in Vietnam, we can still have a really good social life and still live really well on what we were earning. So that served us well. I think we probably did about 5 years, like 12-month contracts or 4, I can't remember now. And so that was enough to kind of boost our savings while we were there. And then, the whole online freelancing thing happened. So we started a blog, catchourtravelblog.com. So we have affiliate partners there. We're not particularly consistent because obviously when you're traveling, we do a lot of bicycle touring. It's pretty hard to keep up with things when you're on a bicycle. But we also, we were doing freelance writing during COVID. I was doing a lot of copywriting and course writing for videos in my previous profession. So I wrote, I think it was 5 full courses, video courses for an American company on quality management. So there's just lots of opportunities to earn income online these days. And I think COVID taught everybody that you don't necessarily need to be in the office for many professions. And so if you don't need to be in the office, you can be anywhere in the world.
Yes, absolutely. And do you base yourself in places like do you rent Airbnbs, or do you stay in? How do you live?
We mix it up. Okay.
Yeah.
So in the cheaper destinations, we'll tend to do kind of hotels or Airbnbs. And we're not big fans of Airbnb anymore, although we do occasionally use them. But our kind of secret sauce at the moment is we're house sitters. So in expensive destinations, we care for somebody's house and usually pets while they go on holidays. And it's no money exchanges hands at all, but we get to stay in amazing places in really expensive destinations for a longer period of time than you normally would as a normal tourist. And they get to go away on holidays knowing that their pets are looked after, they're in their own home, their house is secure, they come home, it's as they left it, or cleaner, tidier. You just treat it like we would our own home. And we get rave reviews. So we get out, these days we almost get to pick and choose the types of places and destinations that we do that in. In fact, we've actually started teaching other people how to do it.
Amazing. And I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. So we've had well over 800, I keep count, I've got a spreadsheet, 820 nights of no-cost accommodation in some of the most amazing houses and destinations around the world. So I think we've probably saved, in Australian dollars, with the terrible exchange rate at the moment, well over $300,000 in the types of places that we've stayed in.
What are some of the nicest places that you've stayed?
In Canada, we had I think it was 4 or 5 bedroom home on the cliffs overlooking the Salish Sea on Vancouver Island. We've stayed in a lot of really nice places in London, which are London's extortionately expensive to stay in a nice place. The last one we were in was I think 3 or 4 bedroom home, beautifully just renovated in Chiswick, which is quite an expensive suburb. We've stayed in Singapore in really nice apartments that would cost you a fortune. We had 4 pools to choose from at the last one. Kuala Lumpur, Ho Chi Minh City, San Francisco. We spent 6 weeks, various places. We've now got a very good friend in Napa. We cared for her home. She left the car for us in the Napa Valley for 3 weeks. So, yeah, all over really. I think we're up to about our 77th sit.
And how many countries in total have you visited so far in your travels?
Oh, the old country argument. Depends on which list you look at. We say it's 140-ish countries and territories.
And so what are some of your favourite places and some of the places that you found the most challenging?
Well, one of our favourite places is Vietnam, I guess, because we have so many friends and we know the place so well, and we always get a very warm welcome when we go back there. And I love the food; it's my favourite cuisine. So that's obviously top of the list.
Whereabouts in Vietnam do you?
Yeah, normally Ho Chi Minh City, but now they've got the 3-month visas, and we're not working there. Last November we went back and we spent 6 weeks in Ho Chi Minh City, literally catching up with people almost every night. Then we went and spent 2 weeks up in Win Yong, which is a up and coming beach kind of place on the coast. Then we went up to An Bang Beach, which is just outside Hoi An, for 10 days or so. And then we got friends in Hue, and then we went up to Hanoi. And we actually did a house sitting in Hanoi for 10 days or so, and caught up with some friends up there. So, yeah, we get around. And we've made a commitment that we'll go back every year to Vietnam now, because we don't stay cold places. So during the northern winter, we head south or to somewhere warm.
And what about some of the most challenging places, or the places that you probably wouldn't go back to?
The only place we've ever really said, like, let's just get out of here, was the Comoros Islands, which is a little island group off the east coast of Africa, kind of above Madagascar, off Kenya. And that was really only because we wanted to get out to one of the other islands, the national parks, and all their airlines were routinely failing, so you couldn't be assured of getting back if you got somewhere. And we just didn't really feel very welcome there. They weren't used to tourists. The only people that they saw that weren't local were NGOs. So it was just a kind of weird situation. So we left there early.
Mm. And so how do you find some of these places that you're house sitting? How do you find them? How did you get on to get to a point where you seem to just be consistently able to find places to house sit?
Yeah, we're on Trusted House Sitters. It's the biggest international house sitting platform. We started back in 2017 and kind of just thought, well, this looks cool. Really? People are going to let us stay in their home. Strangers are going to let us stay in their home for nothing. And so we basically just set up a profile, and it was only like a week or so. We weren't ready to start doing it. It was just something we were planning to try. And I got a message from a lady across the river in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh. And she said, look, I've got to go to Cambodia. Can you come over and look after my dog in my apartment for me for a few days? And I thought, okay, sure. So I got to see another part of town and walk the dog twice a day, and stayed in a really nice apartment over in District 2. And, that was our first 5-star review. So then we were headed to England and then up to Norway to go cycling. So our bikes, we do a lot of bicycle touring. Once a year we do a big tour. So we kind of trundle around on bicycles with our tent, cooking gear and sleeping gear on the back. And we were headed up to 600 kilometres above the Arctic Circle, but we'd left our bikes in the UK. So the ladies that we looked after their home for that time had gone and picked up our bikes, got them serviced by the mechanic, and they were there waiting for us when we got to the UK. So we looked after their house for, I think it was 10 days, and their 3 doggos in the countryside. And then they packed us and our bikes up and put us on a plane to Norway, and we did our little cycling trip. So, yeah, then after that, we did house sits in Canada, and that basically they're just on the route that we're traveling. So we're very selective about the places that, we want to house sit, because it needs to be somewhere where we want to go anyway.
Yeah, of course. And what are some places that you found that people might not have typically heard of, that are like great little spots that you think people who love, like you say, to follow the sun, places maybe that people have not possibly sort of, overpopulated, and are just sort of quiet little places that you found that people haven't maybe heard of, that have surprised you?
Yeah, I guess we don't have. Well, I guess one of the best trips we did was across, and I'm not saying they're places in the sun, but, the stars. I think they're becoming more popular now, but back in 2012, I think it was just before we went to Africa, we backpacked from Shanghai to Istanbul via Tibet and Western China, and then through the stans, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and then through to Iran, and then through to Turkey. So that was a fascinating part of the world. We absolutely loved that trip, and we did it independently, and that's actually the trip where we got the inspiration to do bicycle touring, because there was a whole lot of people on bicycles out there, crossing the Pamir Highway and doing amazingly adventurous things. And we thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. So that was our next challenge after we did a big trip through Africa.
And so what would your advice be if someone wanted to do what you're doing now, what's some tips that you would give to people about where to start?
Yeah, I think, obviously budget is the huge thing, because, you basically how much you can afford is governing what you can do and where you can go. But there are ways to not have to spend as much money and still have a great time, and also ways to earn money while you're on the road. So I think that 10 years where we put everything into place you might not need 10 years these days, but because there's so many more opportunities to earn online. But definitely get all your ducks in a row before you leave. Things like working out what the best bank account structure is going to be, like with fees and exchange rates and things. Just even things like getting your wills done, getting a power of attorney, working out what the best travel insurance is going to be, because you're going to be long-term as opposed to just having a short holiday. Bringing your bank manager into the loop, getting your solicitor on the same page, financial advisors, accountants. We have a great accountant. She knows she actually follows us on Facebook, and she sends me a little reminder. It's time to do taxes, and so they're on the same page with us. So we've got kind of this support team working in the background. Not that they have to do anything, but we know that they're there if we need them. And I think it's kind of harder to set that kind of thing up once you're traveling.
Yeah. And so where do you think that you will you officially retire anywhere, or is this the retirement plan, just continue on?
I guess it depends. It always is going to depend on your health. As we get older, those kind of things become a little bit more present in your mind. When you're younger, you're kind of bulletproof and do crazy things. Well, we still do crazy things, but it just hurts a lot more what we do. I don't know. It's Australia is just so expensive. We still have a property there, so we're still, we could go back to that if we wanted to. We could always buy a caravan and do the caravanning thing. To be honest, we haven't really thought about it all that much. If the visas were more long-term in Vietnam, it's one of the only kind of Asian countries that doesn't have some kind of retirement visa. I think we'd probably consider that to, be there a little bit more longer term. But I think it's important to have options. So we're always looking at places. Well, this would be nice to stay longer, but we haven't really found anywhere that we consider a permanent base at this point in time.
Well, it sounds like you're obviously adventurous travellers who love travelling. So that sort of speaks for itself, really, doesn't it? Well, we're coming to the end. We're running out of time. So I'll ask you the last question we ask all of our guests, which is, what's the most bizarre thing that's ever happened to you in your travels?
That Silk Road trip that we did, we actually got kind of put up against a cliff in the middle of the night by the Tajik army, searching the car we were in for drugs, because we're on the Afghan border. So what happened, we went to Tajikistan. We're in a place called Murgab, and everything went down, phone lines, internet lines. And as news started to trickle through from the other side of the Pamir Highway, we realised there'd been a bit of an altercation between the local officials and the drug smugglers coming out from Afghanistan. So they'd chopped off the route. We eventually got a car through to a place called Korog, and it was, there were tanks in the street. There was burnt out cars. And so we thought, well, we're going to get out of here quick, smart. We wanted to get over to the capital, Dushanbe, but the road through there is quite tricky. The border is actually the river dividing Afghanistan and Tajikistan, and the only way we could do it is hire a four-wheel drive on the spot and go. So we did. we always, emergency funds, and a German guy that needed to catch a plane and an American guy, and the two of us set off on this kind of crazy trip through to Dushanbe, and about halfway there, the army pulled us up completely, like, what the hell are you doing here? And we were pulled out at gunpoint, put up against the wall, and as they searched the car, obviously we knew we didn't have anything, but we really didn't know the two guys we were with that well. They're now very good friends, and we jumped back in the car and we got to Dushanbe, and that was it. But that was probably one of the most bizarre nights we've ever had.
Oh, it certainly sounds like that is would have been a very bizarre experience and frightening experience to have. But you live to tell the tale, don't you?
You do, and they make the best stories.
Look, it's been so great chatting with you, and thank you for taking the time to talk about your amazing adventures and how other people can possibly follow in your footsteps.
Yeah, well, we do try. We've just got a new travel group on Facebook, but if people want to just Google us, our kind of brand name is Catch Our Travel Bug. We have a website, we've got Facebook pages and things.
Great. Well, thank you for being on The World Awaits.
Thank you.
Talk about ticking off life goals. It was so interesting to hear how they financially support themselves. To follow Sharyn and Tim's adventure, go to catchourtravelbug.com. Our tip this week is about what time you should get to the airport for your next flight. This is a hot topic. This is a hot topic in the World Awaits land, let me tell you. So what we're going to do, right? Okay, what we're going to do.
That's why we're already laughing. No one even knows what we're going to say.
What we're going to do is we're going to start with the official times, which I have to admit, I do not adhere to. So, all right. So, and then we're going to work back from there, people. So, according to Qantas, as a rough guide, for domestic, the latest check-in and bag drop is 30 minutes before your flight departs. Coach air flights are 40 minutes, and if you have an international connection, it's 45 minutes.
Okay.
So that's the official word, right?
That's the official word, polishing my halo over here. And when it comes to international, Qantas and Air New Zealand both say 90 minutes beforehand, but bear in mind that's the absolute latest you can check in and drop your bag. So if you do that, you're going to be under loads of pressure, especially if you're not taking into account things like traffic or getting from your car to the airport. So this is what I do. I sound very anal. I actually I've always done this. I think it's the old news journalist in me, but I work backwards. So I take the time that I need to get somewhere, and then I add about 20 minutes minimum, then I work back. So I add 20 minutes to walk to check-in, blah, blah, etc., etc. And then I time it right back to when I have to leave the house. So actually, I'm always ahead of time.
Right. I mean, look, I work backwards as well. Don't think I've got no discipline, none whatsoever.
So, I'll tell you the reason I do it. The reason I do this is because I just hate being rushed and stressed at the last minute, and I like to be early. So I hate being late. I've got this complete issue with being, and I remember, I'll tell you one tiny little story. I reckon this is possibly why. When I was working as a news journalist in a newsroom, we were working to half-hour deadlines, and I remember going to work for Tourism New Zealand, and they would go out to get coffee, and I remember looking at the clock and thinking, what are they doing? It's top of the hour. Why are they getting coffee? And they took so long. They'd be gone for like 20 minutes, half an hour, right, to get a coffee. And I'd be like, how can you do that? Like, I'd been working in this environment where you weren't even allowed to leave. And if you left for too long, you get a radio cart thrown at your head, because that's how old I am. They were radio carts back then. But anyway, so I don't like to be rushed, and I like to be early. So, but look, I'm not saying I haven't had my fair share of issues. Like I remember when my mum was in hospital, and I was actually getting a domestic flight. I'd flown from Australia, but then I was getting a domestic flight because I had to go somewhere else first to see her. And I was so stressed out that I remember I took my bag to, I was going through the security part, and I'd forgotten to check it in. So, and then I just looked down and was like, oh my God, I haven't checked my bag, and what an idiot. So I had to race back. But that's why you should be early, because, I had time, And but yeah, I do, strictly speaking, I do adhere to the old rules of 3 hours before an international and 1 hour before a domestic flight, and I always stick to that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, to be fair to you, Kirstie, if you look for the airport info, like Sydney Airport does say arrive 3 hours, but oh my God, life is too short to be sitting in an airport. It wrecks my head. I totally believe the 3 hour thing is just made up by the duty-free cartels to fleece all your money and make you pay overpriced coffee. The only redeeming feature in Melbourne Airport is that actually it's got decent coffee in the airport. So I'm happy to pay for that, right? But look,
they even do a chai latte, which they don't do in Sydney, but they do a chai latte.
You can get a coffee from Brunetti or Movida. You know, it's actually the food scene. I always think is quite spectacular in Melbourne. Spectacular, that's a strong word, but it punches above its international weight. I don't know, 2 hours before international is enough if you've already checked in online. So then all you've got to do is drop your bags. Mind you, it took 40 minutes to drop my bags with Qatar in Melbourne this past flight.
See?
Apparently, well, but they're not going to go without me, right? I'm standing in the bloody queue. They were the ones that had issues with people without the correct visas. The couple in front of me took 30 minutes to check in 8 enormous suitcases. I can't even think of how much they paid for their freight bill. But the flight's not going to go without me while I'm standing in the queue. So I'll be there in time, but not early. I have had a couple of absolute clangers, like when I was doing a domestic recently, and there was a massive crash on the M80, and it took me something like 90 minutes on what's normally a 30-minute run. So I was sweating for Australia, and I did make that flight literally as they were closing it. I mean, that's too insane, even for me. I'm happy to fly by the seat of my pants, but that one, I think that aged me.
Well, next week when it's 3 hours before my flight to New Zealand, you know where you can find me. If you'd like to help support our production costs, you can buy us a coffee at coffee.com/theworldawaits. That's ko-fi.com/theworldawaits, so we can continue to bring you inspirational travel interviews with the world's best. Next week, I'm talking to Belle about Bulgaria. We're talking about slow food and slow travel in this Eastern European country, and she chats about her recent slow train journey with Eurail from northern Greece into Bulgaria.
And we love a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. Click on our profile, scroll down to the bottom to ratings and reviews, and hit those 5 stars if you're feeling it. And if you're on Spotify, go to our main page and click on the 3 dots underneath the photo, or simply drop us a line at hello@theworldawaits.au. That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods. And where can people find you, Kirstie?
I'm at Kirstie Writes on Instagram. That's KIRSTIE Writes, WRITES. And where can people find you, Belle?
You can find me at globalsalsa.com or on Insta at global_salsa.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.